Hi, everyone. Um, my name is Jamie Boswa, and I just wanted to record this quick video to address a common question I've been getting recently, which is how to either incentivize or require employees to take a COVID vaccine to protect your workplace. So vaccines can be required. However, there are some limitations on them. The first is that it is recommended under various laws that providing, requiring the vaccine in your workplace be related to a business necessity. Um, also, not allowing employees in the workplace who haven't been vaccinated must pose a significant risk of substantial harm. And this must be based on reliable, objective information to support the employer's concern. ADA and Title VII, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Federal Civil Rights Law both require employee accommodations for both disability and religion if these risks that you've identified can't be eliminated through a workplace accommodation. Then the employee can be excluded, but the accommodation has to be offered. And we'll go into that in a moment. Also, the emergency approval status of the COVID-19 vaccines is generally understood at this point in time not to negate the ability of a private employer to mandate the vaccine. What I'm seeing mostly is that lawyers, employment lawyers and others are seeing that ability to opt out of a vaccine that is only approved for emergency use as applying to government requirements that the employee or that individuals take it. And in a private workplace, employers can require it if the elements that we're going to discuss here exist in their workplace. So you can exclude employees from your workplace if the failure to vaccinate poses a direct threat. So this has to be assessed individually for these factors. So you have to look at each individual employee's potential exposure, the nature of their work, and all of their individual characteristics to determine whether or not excluding them is necessary to eliminate a direct threat. So we look at the duration of the risk, the nature and the severity of the potential harm, the likelihood that the potential harm will occur, the imminence of the potential harm, and whether the harm can be eliminated through an accommodation. So for example, if an employee can work from home and they can't be vaccinated due to a health condition that constitutes a disability, they could continue to work from home potentially as an accommodation, thereby eliminating the direct threat to others in the office environment. The same would be the case for an employee who refuses to take a vaccine due to a religious objection. Other accommodations may also be available depending on the nature of that employee's work and the nature of your workplace. Employees can also be excluded if being vaccinated is a safety qualification standard of the job. For this, we look at typically jobs protecting public safety. For example, a police officer who is on duty on the streets must have the ability to protect himself and the public and has a certain physical capacity. We see these kind of safety qualification standards in those types of jobs. The safety qualification standard must be supported by objective facts, and it must be job related and consistent with business necessity. I just want to caution those of you who are implementing a vaccination program to be cautious about making disability-related inquiries. The ability to do so is limited by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Employers cannot request disability-related information from employees other than in specific circumstances. And so if you're using a third party to implement your vaccines, that is a good way to go because you don't collect as much information. There's no pre-screening, for example. Additionally, when making inquiries of employees, you should instruct them not to provide genetic information to you, such as their family member's medical history. All of the medical information must be kept confidential. And when asking for proof of vaccination, the inquiry should just be limited to the proof of vaccination, not follow-up questions, which may unnecessarily elicit prevented disability-related information. There's also been a lot of talk about vaccine incentives. Vaccine incentives fall under the wellness program rules, the federal wellness program rules, which are governed by the ADA standards. So if you do not provide an alternative means for a disabled employee to earn an incentive, for example, that would put that employee who's disabled in a less favorable position than employees who are not disabled and can take the vaccine. So that needs to be considered if you're offering incentives, even if this is a voluntary incentive program. For example, if you're offering a $25 gift card to those that are vaccinated, you need to provide an alternative means for a disabled employee to use the same incentive. For example, if you're going to allow them to remain in the workplace because an accommodation is available that makes that safe, as we discussed previously, perhaps they could watch a safety video or undertake some other task that also contributes to COVID-19 safety in your workplace, but isn't the vaccine itself. Also, if the program is not voluntary, that presents some potential problems under wellness program rules, because typically those programs do require that they are voluntary. The higher the incentive, the higher the risk that you could encounter a problem or a violation of those rules. The de minimis standard that has been established is a water bottle. So for example, if those who are being vaccinated get a free water bottle, that's okay. That doesn't count as an incentive. That's clear under the law. But the higher the incentive, the higher the risk that one of these rules could be violated. So if you want to offer incentives, it's a good idea to run this by council potentially. And also, there's always the option to create vaccine alternatives that you may have done in the past for other things like flu shots, or for offering time off for employees who want to receive a vaccine, or offering paid time for the vaccine if it is voluntary. Things like that can be considered. Just want to make sure, again, that you are considering any employees who cannot take the vaccination for a medical or religious reason in those program structures. That's all I have for you. I hope that this was a helpful introduction to vaccines.